All right, so we've got this pretty fascinating set of articles and research all about critical thinking.
Okay.
Especially how it relates to AI. I mean, AI is everywhere these days,
Yeah.
promising to like boost our productivity and solve problems super fast.
Yeah.
But what I find really interesting is what happens to our own critical thinking skills.
Yeah.
When we start relying so heavily on these algorithms, are we at risk of kind of becoming complacent or losing that sharp edge of human insight?
It's a valid concern, for sure. It's almost as if we are at a crossroads right now, trying to balance this incredible potential of AI with the crucial need to sort of, preserve those human skills that have always kind of guided us.
Exactly. So let's start with the basics. Defining critical thinking.
Yeah.
We hear that term all the time. But what does it really mean? Especially, in this rapidly changing world with the rise of AI.
You're right. It is a bit of a buzzword.
Yeah.
But when you look at the sources you've provided, everything from like Wikipedia to those dense academic papers. Yeah.
The core elements are pretty consistent. So critical thinking is all about carefully analyzing information.
Okay.
Questioning assumptions, evaluating evidence, and forming judgments based on reason and logic.
It's about really engaging with information instead of just passively accepting it.
Exactly. Actively engaging, not just absorbing it, but like wrestling with it.
It's like being a detective almost, right? You're not just taking things at face value.
Right.
You're searching for clues, examining evidence, trying to put together that most logical explanation.
You got it. That's a fantastic analogy.
Thanks.
And it highlights a key element of critical thinking: skepticism. A critical thinker is naturally curious and skeptical.
Okay.
They're not afraid to challenge the status quo or ask the tough questions.
Right.
They're going to demand evidence to support any claims. They're constantly evaluating the credibility of sources and the logic behind every argument.
So it's not just about having knowledge. It's about using that knowledge in a really effective way.
And thinking critically about the information that we are bombarded with every single day.
Every day, all the time.
Especially, with all this information online, and a lot of it is driven by algorithms.
Absolutely. And this brings us to the heart of our deep dive, the potential impact of AI on our critical thinking skills. Now, the research you've sent me, specifically the paper, AI's Impact on Critical Thinking and Strategies for Balance, raises some serious concerns about what happens when we rely too much on AI to do the thinking for us.
So let's get into that.
Okay.
You mentioned cognitive offloading earlier.
Yeah.
What exactly is that, and how does it relate to AI?
Cognitive offloading is basically handing over our thinking tasks to external tools or technologies.
Like using a calculator.
Exactly like using a calculator to solve a math problem instead of doing it in your head.
Okay.
But with AI, we're taking this to a whole other level. I mean, we're now depending on algorithms to analyze data, make predictions, even generate creative content. The worry is that by constantly offloading these tasks to AI, we could be weakening the neural pathways in our brains that are responsible for critical thinking.
So it's like if you always rely on GPS to navigate, you might lose your sense of direction.
Yeah.
Our brains get so used to AI doing the hard work that we lose the ability to think critically for ourselves.
That's the concern. And there is a growing body of research that suggests a legitimate one. For example, one study you included found that workers who have high levels of trust in AI, they actually tend to exert less cognitive effort when doing tasks, even when those tasks require critical thinking.
Really?
It's like their brains go into autopilot mode, assuming the AI will catch any errors.
So basically, by becoming too reliant on these AI tools, we might be training our brains to be
potentially,
less critical, less engaged, less capable of thinking for ourselves.
Precisely. And the long-term implications are pretty significant,
Yeah.
especially as AI becomes increasingly integrated into every aspect of our lives.
Like, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking about fields like medicine, law, finance, where critical thinking is absolutely essential.
Yeah.
What happens if professionals in these areas become overly reliant on AI without maintaining their own critical thinking skills? The consequences could be huge.
Okay, that's a little bit unsettling.
It is a bit.
Yeah.
But before we spiral into some dystopian future where robots have taken over, let's talk about what we can do to mitigate these risks.
All right, what can we do?
Because the good news is we are not powerless in the face of this technological shift. There are concrete steps we can take, both as individuals and organizations, to harness the power of AI while preserving and even enhancing our critical thinking.
Let's dive into those.
Absolutely.
Actually, I think we have time to at least touch on a few key points now. one of the most crucial things is to promote a culture of what I call constructive skepticism.
Okay.
When it comes to AI, we need to encourage people to question AI outputs.
So instead of just blindly accepting what the algorithm tells us, right, we need to be more skeptical.
Exactly. Think, okay, this is what the AI suggests, but what other factors should I be considering? What might the AI be missing?
I like that.
It's about seeing AI as a tool, not an all-knowing oracle.
Right, a tool.
Another crucial strategy is developing what we call human-in-the-loop systems.
Human-in-the-loop systems.
Yes. Essentially, it's about designing systems where humans and AI work together.
Okay.
Collaboratively leveraging each other's strengths. Instead of fully automating tasks, we build in checkpoints where human judgment and critical thinking are essential.
So instead of just letting the algorithms make all the decisions,
right,
humans are still in control.
Exactly. And this helps ensure we aren't blindly delegating critical decisions to algorithms.
That makes sense. So we're talking about a partnership between humans and AI.
Yes.
Where AI can handle things like processing huge amounts of data or identifying patterns.
Right.
But humans are still there to provide the critical thinking, the ethical judgment.
And the nuances.
The nuance that AI might miss. Precisely. This approach can be applied to tons of different fields. Healthcare, finance, engineering design, you name it.
Wow.
By keeping humans in the loop, we can harness the power of AI while mitigating the risks.
I like it. So it's all about finding that balance between human intelligence and artificial intelligence.
Yes.
Each has its own strengths and limitations.
Exactly. And it's not just about incorporating human oversight. It's also about designing AI tools in a way that encourages critical thinking.
What do you mean by that?
Instead of just giving answers, AI tools could be designed to prompt users to ask questions, to consider alternative perspectives, to evaluate the limitations of the AI's output.
So instead of just giving us the answer, it's teaching us how to think critically to arrive at the answer ourselves.
Yes, I love that analogy. It's like teaching someone to fish rather than giving them a fish.
Exactly.
And there are some really cool examples of AI tools being designed with critical thinking in mind. One that comes to mind is Debate GPT.
Debate GPT.
Yeah, it was developed by researchers at Stanford.
Okay.
Basically, it's an AI system trained to generate arguments for and against a proposition.
Interesting.
It's not about finding the right answer, but presenting a balanced view of a complex issue.
So it's helping you think through the issue.
Exactly. Forcing the user to engage in critical thinking and form their own conclusions based on the evidence.
So it's like a sparring partner almost.
Yeah. Challenging you to think deeply about an issue and consider multiple perspectives.
I like it.
Yeah.
What else?
Another interesting one is explainable AI, or XAI.
Explainable AI?
It's a field of research focused on creating AI systems that can explain their reasoning.
Oh, so you can understand how they're making decisions.
Exactly, because traditional AI systems, especially those using deep learning,
Yeah.
they operate as these black boxes, so it's hard to know how they arrived at their conclusions.
And if you don't know how it made a decision, how can you trust it?
That's the problem. That lack of transparency can be a big barrier to trust, especially for important decisions.
Yeah,
So that's where explainable AI comes in.
Okay.
Making AI systems more transparent and understandable.
So we can understand their limitations and potential biases?
Exactly. And make better decisions about when and how to trust their outputs.
So it's not just about designing AI that can think, but designing AI that can explain its thinking.
Exactly.
In a way that we can understand.
And that we can evaluate critically.
So it feels like we're talking about a major shift in how we think about AI.
It is.
Moving away from AI replacing human intelligence to a more collaborative model.
Yes.
Where AI helps us.
Augments our abilities.
Augments and enhances our own abilities.
I agree. And this shift needs both technological advancements and a concerted effort to train people to work effectively alongside these systems.
So we need to equip people with the critical thinking skills to work with AI.
Yes, to evaluate its outputs, to identify bias, and to make sound judgments.
So it's not just about teaching people how to code or build AI.
Right.
But teaching them how to think critically about the information that AI produces.
Exactly. And how to use it responsibly and ethically.
That's a great point. This has been a fascinating deep dive into this whole relationship.
It's complicated.
Between AI and critical thinking.
Yeah.
But before we wrap up, I'd love to talk about one more thing. The potential for AI to not just challenge our critical thinking, but also enhance our creativity.
Ooh, good point.
You know,
That's a conversation I love to have. While there's valid concern about the negative impacts of AI,
Of course.
it's crucial to remember that AI can also be a force for good.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to unlocking human creativity.
Okay. I'm interested to hear more about that.
Happy to share some thoughts.
Perfect. I think our listeners will be too.
Mm.
All right. So we've talked about keeping humans in the loop being so important when we're designing these AI systems.
Right.
But I'm curious about how we actually do that. What are some practical ways to implement that? What does that look like in the real world?
Yeah, that's where it gets really interesting. The way you implement those human-in-the-loop systems, it can be pretty different depending on, what field you're in and how complicated the task is.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So let's take medical diagnosis as an example, because AI is really making some, big changes there.
Right.
Let's say an AI algorithm is analyzing a patient's medical images.
Okay.
And it flags something that looks potentially abnormal.
Okay.
Now, in a fully automated system, the AI's diagnosis would just go straight to the patient.
Right.
And that could lead to, a wrong diagnosis or unnecessary worry for the patient.
Yeah. It's a little scary to think about.
It is. But with the human-in-the-loop system, a doctor would review the AI's findings, consider the patient's history and, their current symptoms, and then ultimately make the final call on the diagnosis.
So the doctor is still the one making this decision?
The AI is like a really powerful tool. It helps the doctor by highlighting things to look at and giving insights from all this data it has. But the human is still the ultimate decision maker. They use their expertise, empathy, and critical thinking to make sure the patient gets the best possible care.
So it's really augmenting the doctor's abilities, not replacing them.
Exactly. It's like having another set of expert eyes that can see those little subtle things and provide valuable data, but the doctor's still in charge.
I like that. And you could apply that to other fields too, right?
Absolutely. Like financial trading. You've got AI algorithms that can go through market data super fast.
Right.
Way faster than a human could.
Yeah.
And they identify these potential trading opportunities. But in a human-in-the-loop system, you have a human trader who would look at the AI's suggestions. And consider things like, their risk tolerance and the overall market conditions and their long-term investment strategy before they actually make the trade.
So it's really finding that sweet spot between the human intelligence and the artificial intelligence.
You got it.
Recognizing that both have their strengths and weaknesses.
Precisely. And it's important to remember that designing these human-in-the-loop systems, it's not just about having the human there to oversee things.
What else is it about?
It's also about designing the AI in a way that actually encourages people to think critically.
How do you do that?
So instead of just giving an answer, the AI could be designed to make the user ask questions, to consider other viewpoints, and to really think about the limitations of what the AI is saying.
So it's like teaching someone how to fish instead of just handing them a fish.
Exactly. Love that analogy.
It's a good one.
And there are already some really interesting AI tools out there that are being designed with this in mind.
Give me an example.
Well, one is Debate GPT.
Debate GPT. What is that?
It was developed by a team at Stanford. It's an AI system that's trained to make arguments for and against a specific idea. So it's not about finding the right answer. It's about showing you both sides of a complex issue. So it really pushes the person using it to think critically and come to their own conclusions.
So it's not telling you what to think.
Right.
It's helping you think.
Yeah, it's like having a debate partner. Who makes you consider different perspectives.
Cool. Anything else?
Another cool one is explainable AI, or XAI.
Okay, I've heard that term before.
Yeah, it's getting a lot of attention.
But I don't really know what it means.
So it's basically this area of research that's focused on making AI systems that can explain how they made their decision.
So you can understand the AI's thought process.
Exactly. Because a lot of traditional AI, especially the ones that use deep learning, they work like these black boxes.
Yeah, you don't know what's going on inside.
Exactly. It's really hard to understand how they came to their conclusion.
And that makes it hard to trust them.
Right, especially when it comes to making big decisions.
Exactly.
That lack of transparency is a huge problem.
Yeah.
So that's where explainable AI is so important.
Okay, so it makes the AI more transparent?
Exactly. And when we can understand how the AI is working, we can figure out its limitations and any biases it might have.
And then we can make better decisions about whether to trust it.
Exactly.
So it's not just about designing AI that's smart. It's about designing AI that can communicate its intelligence
Right.
in a way that humans can understand.
And evaluate.
So it seems like we're talking about a whole different way of thinking about AI.
We are.
It's not about AI replacing us. It's about AI working with us.
It's a collaboration.
A collaboration.
Yeah. And to make this work, we need both the technology to improve and for people to learn how to work well with these AI systems.
So it's not enough to just teach people how to code
Right.
or build AI.
It's about critical thinking skills.
Right. We need to teach people how to think critically about the information that AI produces.
And how to use that information ethically and responsibly.
That's so important. This conversation has been really insightful.
It's a big topic.
It is. But before we wrap up, I want to touch on one more thing.
Okay.
The potential for AI to actually help us be more creative, not just challenge our critical thinking.
I love that you brought that up. We tend to focus on the potential downsides of AI.
Yeah.
But it's important to remember the positive side, too.
Right.
AI can really help us unlock our creativity in ways we never imagined.
Okay. I'm excited to hear more about that.
Me too. Let's get into it.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the risks of AI, potentially harming our critical thinking skills.
Yeah.
But you said that AI could actually make us more creative.
Right.
It seems kind of counterintuitive. Like, how can relying on algorithms actually make us more creative?
Yeah. It is a bit of a paradox, isn't it? We tend to think of creativity as this purely human thing.
Right.
But AI can actually play a pretty surprising role in unlocking that potential.
Okay, so you're saying AI can help us be more creative?
Yeah, think of AI as a creative partner.
Okay, a partner.
Not a replacement for, human ingenuity.
Okay, I'm starting to see how that could work. But can you give me some, real-world examples of AI actually boosting creativity?
Absolutely. One area where we're already seeing this is in art.
Okay, like AI-generated art.
Exactly.
Right.
You've seen those AI-generated paintings and music compositions that have been making the news.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
Some people say that's not real creativity because it's a machine doing it.
Right.
But I think it's more complicated than that.
Okay, so it's not about AI replacing artists.
Right.
It's more about AI giving artists new tools and inspiration.
Exactly. Think of it as a digital muse. It can analyze tons of data, different styles and techniques and historical trends,
Okay.
and then it can create these new combinations that human artists might never have thought of on their own.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it can help us break out of our creative ruts and push the boundaries of what art can be.
I like that. So it's like AI is giving artists this whole new palette of creative possibility.
Exactly. It's giving them new colors and textures to play with.
That's a really cool way to think about it.
Yeah.
But what about other applications of AI for creativity, outside of the art world? How is it being used for innovation?
Well, one area where it's showing a lot of promise is in design and engineering.
Okay, I can see that.
Imagine an architect using AI to create hundreds of different building designs,
Wow,
each one optimized for energy efficiency cost and how it looks.
that would be amazing.
Or an engineer using AI to explore thousands of possible solutions to a really complex problem and finding innovative approaches that humans might have missed.
So in these cases, the AI isn't replacing the designer or the engineer.
Right.
It's more like a brainstorming partner.
Exactly. It's helping them come up with and test out ideas much faster than they could on their own.
So it's like AI can handle the more tedious parts of the creative process.
Right, like all the data crunching and exploring different options.
And that frees up humans to focus on the bigger picture.
Exactly, the conceptual thinking and coming up with the overall vision.
That's where the real creativity comes in.
Yeah, and by letting AI handle the heavy lifting, it allows us to focus on what humans are really good at.
Like making those intuitive leaps and connecting ideas in new ways.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and bringing emotion and meaning to our creations.
It's like AI is giving us superpowers,
Yeah.
helping us be even more creative.
In a way, it is, but like any powerful tool, we need to be careful how we use it.
Right. We can't just let AI make all the creative decisions.
And that's where critical thinking is still so important.
Okay, so even when we're using AI to be more creative,
Yes.
we still need to think critically.
Absolutely. We need to be able to look at what the AI is producing and question its assumptions.
And make sure our creations reflect our own values.
Exactly. So it's not about blindly trusting the AI.
Right.
It's about using it as a tool to expand our creative possibilities.
But we're still the ones in control.
Right. We're guiding the process with our own critical thinking and judgment.
That makes sense. So the key takeaway here is that AI can both challenge and enhance our critical thinking.
Yes.
And it can unlock a whole new level of creativity and innovation.
It's a powerful tool.
It is.
Yeah.
But it's up to us to use it wisely.
We need to approach AI with a balanced perspective, recognizing both its potential and its limitations.
And I think the most important thing is to never stop learning.
Right.
To stay curious and to always think critically about the world around us.
Whether it's shaped by algorithms or our own human ingenuity.
Well said. It's a really exciting time and a little bit scary. But I think if we embrace critical thinking and use AI responsibly,
yes,
we can create a future where technology helps us reach our full potential.
I think so too. It's all about finding that balance.
Thanks for joining me on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.